Hey, what's up, people? Pizowell here. Today I want to talk to you guys about a movie that I've intended to talk about on this channel for quite some time. I just haven't had the opportunity to do so. But recently the opportunity has presented itself in the form of The Lost, which is a series of reviews that I've done about more obscure titles, movies that you may have heard of but just haven't seen, or movies that you may not have even known existed. Now, granted, this is an odd selection for The Lost because it is part of a franchise that is not only near and dear to horror fans' hearts, but to science fiction fans' hearts as well. It is for Alien 3, but not for the Alien 3 that most of you probably have seen, but for the assembly cut of Alien 3. But let me backtrack for just one moment. When I first got the Alien Anthology DVD set, this is the Blu-ray set, but back in the day when I first got the DVD set, the first thing I did was get out the supplemental disc, the disc with all the special features on it, the making of, and I went straight for Alien 3 because I've always had a fascination with movies that went through a difficult production process. And Alien 3 went through a very, very difficult production process, literally from day one. It was a film that started with a release date instead of a script. So the producers were scrambling to find a screenwriter. They went through a dozen screenwriters. They went through a dozen different scripts. At one point, they locked one down. They locked down a director, and they said, let's do it. They spent millions of dollars constructing sets, and at the last minute, they go, nope. Scrap that, let's move on. They settled on the idea of a penal colony planet that Ripley, played again by Sigourney Weaver, would crash land onto with an alien, and the alien would run amok on this penal colony planet. Now, of course, it was directed by David Fincher. It was David Fincher's first film. There was lots and lots of infighting between David Fincher and the producers and 20th Century Fox over creative differences and things of that nature. And the film has always felt, the theatrical version of the film has always felt incomplete. It's felt like an unfinished film. And really, it is. It's an unfinished film. If you watch this, the making of on the Alien Anthology set, it's really an unfinished film because at one point David Fincher more or less just sort of gave up and walked away in the editing process and said, you know what, I've had enough of it. And he was the only director that didn't want to participate in any of the supplemental material for the Alien Anthology sets. I mean, still there's still some open wounds there on his end at least, and yeah, still, I've always sort of enjoyed Alien 3 because Alien 3 to me is kind of a ballsy movie. I mean, Aliens, the sequel to Alien, was an awesome, just action, sci-fi, badass movie with this really cool, hopeful ending. Well, Alien 3 just bashes all that in the opening credits. Before the movie is even started, they go, oh, you liked Hicks? He's dead. You liked Newt? Dead. They're gone. They're done. They're written right off. Movie's not even started. In the opening credits, both those characters who we loved from Aliens are dead. And that kind of tone just permeates the rest of the film. There's just this unrelentingly grim and grimy and bleak and nihilistic feel to Alien 3 that I've always liked. And I thought it was really ballsy to release that film, considering that, you know, this was 20th Century Fox's marquee title. This was their big franchise. This was the movie that was supposed to keep them on the map. This was the movie that was supposed to make them tons of bank. And they settled on bleak, nihilistic, just a grim movie. And I've always liked that. It's very basic. It's very stripped down. It is one alien, insulated area, havoc, kind of like the original Alien, back to basics kind of approach. And I've always thought that it was very stylish. I mean, it was directed by David Fincher, of course. It was his first film, but you can definitely see that he had a lot of talent. He was definitely someone with a very keen eye, very distinctive sort of style. And I always liked that. I really like sort of the alien POVs as they're as the aliens chasing the inmates down these corridors, and the camera's spinning around the halls, and the aliens on the ceiling or the aliens on the side of the wall chasing them. I like the fact that the alien was quadrupedal, runs on all fours. I thought that was kind of cool. It's a different kind of alien. I always had a soft spot for the movie. I didn't think it was a great movie. I didn't think it stood anywhere near the first two Alien films, but I had a soft spot for it. The assembly cut of the film is, when I first heard about the assembly cut of the film, I thought, okay, great. This is possibly the full movie. All the sort of the plot threads that were left dangling might be sewn up, stuff like that. So I was very, very interested to watch the assembly cut of the film. And I have to say, the assembly cut of Alien 3 is the far, far superior edition of that film. There's quite a lot of differences. There's 30 more minutes of film to the assembly cut. There's a lot more character development stuff amongst the inmates, which in the theatrical version, I mean, they're all really sort of just interchangeable. They're just these bald guys. They all look alike. They're running around. They're getting killed by the alien, and there's really no differentiating one from the other. In the assembly cut, we get to, at least with a few of them, they single them out and they give them kind of a personality. We kind of know who they are, which we didn't get in the theatrical version. There's a lot more about, their religion. They're all murderers, they're all rapists, but they've accepted Christianity, and Charles S. Dutton's character is sort of their messiah. He's their leader. And we get a lot more stuff with them, which I can understand why that was cut from the film, because they're constantly looking at running time and how often that they can play the movie in the theater, how many times per night. And, if they can cut dialogue that's not integral to the story, then they're going to do it. If they're going to cut character development that's not integral to the story, or that's not, exposition, that's not, pulling the plot along, then they're just going to cut it and get rid of it to cut down on time. And I can understand why they did that. Although I appreciated it in this assembly cut because, like I said, it gave a face and an identity to a lot of those inmates who before were just totally interchangeable. And it was kind of interesting to see what the dynamic between them and their struggle with their religion after Ripley comes to the planet, crash lands on the planet, since none of them have seen a woman in many, many years, and how quickly some of them abandon their faith. I thought it was very, very interesting. Ripley crash lands onto the planet. She washes up on shore in the assembly cut, which I think is much cooler. She's covered in like lice and bugs and nasty stuff when they find her. I think that's a very, very cool moment. There's a character, his name is Golik in the film. In the theatrical version, he just sort of disappears and we have no idea what happened to him. He's like just in a bed at one point and then he's just gone and we have no idea what happened to him. There's kind of a cool sort of subplot involving him where he believes that the alien has spared him and the alien wants to kill everybody and leave just him and Ripley so that they can create this own world. They'll be like Adam and Eve in this world, just the two of them. And so he goes off to the alien's been captured. He goes off to set the alien free so that the alien can go off and do this. And of course, that's not what the alien's out for. And the alien takes care of him and is out to get everybody else. The ending is a little bit different when Ripley sacrifices herself and falls back into the fire. The queen alien doesn't burst out of her chest. It's just she just goes back into the fire. It's a much better film. It's a much better, more complete film. It's just a better version, and I highly recommend it. if you've got the Alien Anthology, the DVD set or the Blu-ray set, definitely watch it. Sit down and watch it, and also watch that making of. Like I said, very, very in depth. You get to see just, you know, all the sort of stumbling blocks. I mean, it's really, to be perfectly honest, it's amazing the film A even came out, and B is as cohesive as it is. The theatrical version is, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I've always had a soft spot for Alien 3, and the assembly cut is definitely the superior version of Alien 3, and I recommend it. It's grimy, it's gritty, it's nihilistic, it's you know, it's just got that feeling throughout the film, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the film for that. It's unabashedly bleak and dark, and I like that. And I like Alien 3, the assembly cut, and I recommend you guys check it out. And yeah. So until next time, you guys take it easy, and